Hey, good Wednesday morning. Thanks for checking out the latest long-range video analysis. Michael Clark here with BAMWX.com. A quick note here, we do have the webinar in an hour and 10 minutes. You just go to BAMWX.com/webinar and you can sign up for it, okay? It's free. It's just a detailed look at our winter outlook, okay? Again, it is, I'm going to type it right here so you can see the web address to go to view it. All right, it's free. So check it out. Hope to see you there. Q&A afterwards. We'll talk about the winter outlook. This right here is what you maybe some tweets you remember from earlier this year. I want to start the video out by saying be very, very careful of these fantasy blocks and these big cold blasts that these models are going to periodically advertise. This was from February 10th of 2020. Here was the old EPS forecast for the EPO. You watched the just unbelievable monumental fail. It was even worse with the GEFS. In terms of forecasting this big negative EPO and this blocking pattern to develop in the Pacific Ocean, only to fail so bad. You literally had the polar opposite outcome. Last year, I went back and counted, it happened 6 times, and it started in late November, and it kept going well into February. This one was the worst one in terms of the impact it had to the markets and to the commodities. The natural gas commodities was horrible. So I show you this to tell you that I'm seeing similar possibilities right now. And I urge you to not, I guess the fancy term is to not drink the Kool-Aid, all right? Or in basketball in the old days, we used to say, don't get caught watching the paint dry. Don't sit there waiting for something to happen that isn't going to, or that doesn't have the support to, right? This was another instance from last year. Several runs suggesting this negative EPO from the European. It just did not happen. Okay, so that leads me to the current EPO forecast. This is the latest all-model forecast for the EPO. All right, everybody's saying we're going to tank this thing for a few days around the 7th, 8th, 9th of November. Everybody except the good old Canadians. The good old Canadians up here are not too keen on this. They go neutral, and then they kind of keep the EPO positive. And I'm telling you, I have suspicion that if the EPO does go negative, it will be incredibly brief, and it will set up shop for a brief cold shot or a brief storm around the 9th through the 12th of November. That's going to be a correlation to an East Asia storm that we're going to talk about in just a second. But I'm just nervous that we're going to jump on these trends that are not probably going to do so hot and verify. The EPS is also trying to now forecast a negative NAO. Again, I want to direct your attention to all of these failed outlooks just in the 5 to 10 day period. All right. Technically, if you think about it, there are multiple runs of the European that suggested right now we should have a negative NAO, and we don't. And so look at this trend here just in the 6 to 10. We're taking the old runs and we are now going from what was once a negative NAO to now forecasting a plus 2.5 deviation NAO. It's the opposite outcome. And the change can happen in the 6 to 10. It can literally screw up your entire plan from the 10 to 15 into the 6 to 10. So I say all that to show you there are multiple indicators from multiple ensemble members of this negative EPO coming. The EPS, all the ensembles are locked into this. I think that it's possible it could be too much, too negative for too long. I'm not saying it can't happen, but the PV is not in an ideal position for this negative EPO to occur, for one. For two, our frictional torque, our global frictional torque is tanking negative. our zonal wind profile, where we look at this, another indication for the frictional torque that can lead to the EPO, is the opposite. So not to get too technical, but our basically our global just kind of forcing, our overall atmospheric setup is not conducive for long-term North Pacific blocking right now. It really suggests that even this could be a bust. All right. So I'm not going to jump into the cold camp. I just can't do it. Now, we'll go over here. I want to show you this. This is the Canadians matrix for the EPO. Out of its 20 members, it has 6 members out of its 20 that go negative with the EPO. The remaining members keep it positive, arguably strongly positive. Okay? So, please keep that in mind. And a couple of these that go negative, take it back positive by the 10th or 11th of November. The Canadians not all in on this. I don't know why it's seeing it differently. I don't have that answer right now. But it is. Right? So, if we're going to get that cold, that storm, between the 9th and 12th of November, it's going to come from this. You see this East Asia, this deep trough coming through. It's supported. It's there. So I do think there is a cold shot around that time. I do think it can get cold for 2 to 4 days. No doubt about it, really. And I think that the European is trying to hint at that. The first round of cold that's going to come is going to come from this cold front working east, and from the MJO pulse going into 6, 7, and 8. That's where the first round of cold in this short term here. So this right here, this day 6 through 10, this looks like MJO 8 in November. See that right there? Cold in the east, warm in the west. There's the outcome, European. Yay, yay, yay. Here we go. We're going to keep going. Now the warmth builds back in from the west and starts to overtake us again, because the MJO, excuse me, is heading back into phases that would favor more warmth, arguably. Now, at the end of this is where you start to see more cold working in. I'm going to come in and show you the one-day charts here. And that's going to be coming from what we believe to be the East Asia trough. Now, I believe that the EPS is seeing this. I believe it's seeing it for what it is. You can see the cold starting to work down in here by day 14, day 15. The cold's coming east. This is November 11th. I think there can be cold here. But I think that it's short-lived and that it can rebound relatively quickly based on everything I've kind of just discussed. So when we look at HDDs, we have all of our models. Of course, the one that's always the coldest, the GEFS, saying there's going to be some at normal to above normal heating demand possibly during this time, the 9th through, let's say, the 12th, just to give us a few cushion days here. Okay. The EPS is the warmest, and it barely gets us above 10-year normals. The Canadian is in the middle of the two. I don't have a problem with that. Okay. Again, I think this is brief, and I think what we're going to be looking at here is post November 12th, it's going to go back down, and then possibly November 15th, 18th, it could go back up a little bit as another big storm comes through in correlation with the SOI. We'll talk about that in just a second. Now, here's the MJO. I want to talk to you about this. MJO is going through phase 6. So, there is some research that does suggest there can be some negative NAO action within a 10-day lag or so of an MJO phase 6. That helps us give us some type of hope for the 9th through the 12th November cold shot. I think that can be correlated maybe to that, along with the East Asia trough. Maybe there's some relationship there. Maybe there isn't. But that does maybe argue that there could be a brief negative NAO. All right. Now, this continues in here. All forecasts really suggest this is going to continue, and perhaps by the end of November and into December, we're going to be somewhere here in the Indian Ocean in phase 2 and 3 of the Madden-Julian oscillation. When we look at these phases, all right, respectively with La Nina considered, here we are right now, November, MJO, phase 8. You see the cold east, the warm west, and then we progress into phase 1. Well, you can kind of see what I was talking about, where the warmth recovers from Texas to the northeast, and then cold follows in behind it. There may be a cold front that may sweep in behind this with that East Asia trough. All right, but then 2 and 3, the cold front has moved east. It's down into the south and east. Theoretically, this is just a theory, all right, but you see the warmth overtakes us again for much of the country, with the exception of the cold that came from the north and west as it migrated through. Now, MJO Phase 3, on all accounts, is really, really warm. It's really a blowtorch. This may not be doing it justice, but by the end of November and into December, it's possible we could be incredibly warm. Another thing that's possible is during this time, late November, believe it or not, there could once again be an uptick in tropical activity as the MJO, the Madden-Julian Oscillation, goes back into its 8, 1, and 2 phases. There could be an uptick in some more. We may not be done with hurricanes or tropical storms even into November, believe it or not. I mean, we're looking at Zeta being the 5th tropical system to hit Louisiana this year. It's unprecedented. If we go into Phase 4, it just continues. These are not good phases to be into starting out December. So from a tropical forcing standpoint and looking at all of it, everything I talked about with the EPO, the zonal winds, the frictional torque, the polar vortex, now the tropical forcing, all systems really are a go for probably a really warm open to December. Okay? That's kind of the takeaway here. So I want to make sure that you all are thinking about how horrible these models did last year with this fantasy cold that never really, materialized. All right. Now, if you're looking beyond what I just talked about, which remember I said there could be another cold shot 15th through the 20th of November, a bigger front from the SOI, the CFS weeklies show another cold front in here. It's late November. You're going to get cold fronts. In La Nina, you're probably going to have these can be potent cold fronts, but they're not here to stay, is the thing. There can be a cold shot during this time, and then a rebound towards the holiday for November. All right, so that when you look at the HDDs, that's what you see here on the GFS 35 day. It's actually having a hard time picking up on the cold front even right now. It doesn't really have it. It's below 10 and 30-year normals all the way through the forecast, and it even goes warmer towards the end of November. Okay, I'm going to end it with this. I want to show you the GFS and what it's doing in the upper levels in the stratosphere. All right, and I'm gonna basically tell you that if there's anything that we need to watch, it's going to be the blocking or the warm heights over the Urals here, over near Scandinavia, if you will. There's a continued sign or signal of just blocking kind of hanging out there. It's trying to nudge or irritate the polar vortex. That may be hopeful, and in that of it could maybe, keep the vortex weaker potentially. I'll tell you though, in years like this one, with our QBO and our Nina, it's more probable that the blocking, in order to displace or disrupt the vortex, the blocking needs to come from the Pacific side. So it's really coming from the wrong side right now, but at least it's there and there's something there. So maybe it's something to watch for mid to late December for the north and east, the Great Lakes into the northeast, which is kind of what our outlook is like for December. When our outlook comes in an hour, be sure to register. If you have any questions about today's analysis, happy to help. Have a great day.